Genetics. Yeah, that's why I switched it up. Yeah. Did you get it?
Here, let's get started.
That's why.
Just a few business things. I appreciate how enthusiastic you are about these discussions, but it's time to end. Okay, good. Some groups are more enthusiastic than others. I would encourage the less enthusiastic groups to work on that. Remember, you are graded on this. And it depends on my mood, you know. If I catch you talking about something else, I might smile and say, please get back on track. Or if I'm in an evil moment, right, I might say nothing and just stick up the point. You don't know. With women, it's like that. You never know if they're going to be the evil twin or their nice selves, right? So it's the same with me. So you don't want to risk that. So make sure you're always very focused in the group. Don't get sidetracked. You don't know what will happen. I might smile until you get back on track, or I might say nothing and backstab you. Okay, so that's that. Again, please don't come late. A few of you, let me get your names. What's your last name? Piero. Piero, yes. What? Ah, yes, got you. And Udeochu. Udeochu, right? Udeochu is your name? No? Oh, I'm so sorry, but it's first time I see you? I think so, right? It's your first time coming? First time I see you on my...
No, it's the first time.
Yeah, the first day you were here probably, but then afterwards not. That's why it's blank. Okay, good. Butler, okay. And who else wandered in? Yes. You're Odeochi. Okay, got you. Okay, good. Let's remember that. I think that's it. I think I got everything. Did I miss anyone? No. Okay. So yeah, don't come late. You know you're missing that point if you come late, right? So you want to be on time. Let's see a couple more things. The audio question, right? This was the last time you could hand it in late. A few of you still don't know. We still haven't done enough. I'll tell you who you are just so you do better next time. This is Meneses, Zaire, Rudin, Nieve. Wait. Not here today, so you can't correct me. Nievesela, Poslavsky, Osorio. Okay, so be careful. You're still not on track. You need to make sure you listen to the whole recording and then answer. There were actually 3 points I needed. Like I said clearly in the lecture, 3 differences. I need to see those well. Next time you'll do better. Zaire, you had a question? You good? Okay. Meneses, you're good? You get what I'm saying? You look depressed. Is it okay? You look depressed. Are you okay? Okay. Osorio, are you clear what happened?
I mean, I don't know.
I can show you after class, right? If anyone's still struggling with this audio thing, come after class and then we'll go over it, right? I'll show you in detail what I mean. Mahmoud, what did you do? You did all of the audio questions. Just one. One per author. You can't do all unless you listen to all the recordings. Did you understand the assignment? Okay, so first you listen to the recording. It's always just the introduction. You listen to that, and then you do the audio question. And there's one audio question per author, so you gotta wait until we get to it. So you need to eventually redo those, right? Okay, so that's this. Yeah. Also, a bunch of you got booted out of the class. Who are you? Raise your hands. You. Okay, please email me so I send you a link to the drive and to the syllabus. You will be booted out until the administration awakens. It's my fault, by the way. So until the administration puts you back in bed. In the meantime, yeah?
I got booted like an hour ago.
You got booted too?
It says not available anymore.
Wasn't me this time. That one wasn't me. So if you're booted, because maybe your vaccine stuff, I don't know. There's other stuff that would boot you, right? So yeah.
How would you know if you're booted or not?
If what?
How would you know?
You'll get an email, right? And then you won't have access to Blackboard. Yeah, so if you stop having access to Blackboard, immediately email me so I can give you all the links so you can continue to function, right? I'm sorry about that. I will never fill out this form that they gave me to fill out. This is what caused your booting. Okay, good. And last thing, when you hand in anything PDF, please. Everything you hand in is a PDF, okay? All right, good. Okay, so let's get into some of your questions. I wanted to go over a couple people had some issues, and then I wanted to also talk about a little bit the we were struggling at the end with Noor and Epstein about the question of how much you can, how much grace you can give that person, right? When is it time to move on? I thought about it a little bit during the week, and I want to say a few words about that, and then we'll get into our text. So, first of all, the brother and sister, some of you are like, what's going on? It's so incestuous. It's not, right? Brother and sister is a term of endearment, right? It's like when you call someone babe, it's not that they're your baby, right? It's a term of endearment. That means, I like you, right? That would be incestuous too, right, babe? So, worse even than, anyway, let's not get graphic. Right? So, sister is a way to say you are close to me like my own flesh and blood. That's how close you are, right? It's a term of endearment. So don't get, don't be too, this shouldn't be too shocking. Okay, great. That's just the one thing I wanted to say. Also, it's interesting. One of you pointed this out. I wanted to highlight this. The chapter we read is when her garden is closed, right? And I think Ramos mentioned this. She says, how do you put it? My garden is closed. Or no, she says, let my lover come into his garden. And then he says, I have come into my garden, right? So it just struck me how interesting that it was first her telling him, let him come into my garden, and then he comes in. There is an element here, teaching here on consent, right? It's not anything goes, right? I know there's a lot of freedom in the text and a lot of grace, but there is here an element where she is first saying, let him come in, and then he comes in. And then there's another thing that's interesting, is that she opens her garden only at the end of, there's a progression in his emotions for her. I don't know if you noticed. He calls her something specific 6 times, same word, and then she opens her garden. Did anyone catch what he calls it? He says it over and over again, and then she opens the garden. So it shows that something is going on in him that enables her to open the garden. Anybody remember what he called her? Yes, calls her my sister, my bride, my sister, 6 or 7 times, right? And then she opens the garden, right? So even though we don't know if they were, actually it doesn't look like they were, traditionally married or anything, but there's definitely on his part a maturation, emotional maturation. There's a progression in his feelings. He's going, my sister, my bride, my sister, my bride, my sister. There's an amplification, and it climaxes in her opening the garden. So there's an interesting teaching there, which we'll come back to when we do Irigaray, on the importance of emotional maturity before the sexual encounter, right? And we'll talk about this at length when we do the last session in class on Irigaray on ethics of sexuality, right? But there's something interesting there that before she can open up, he has to show a certain emotional maturity. And we'll go into detail in that last session, right? Where how a woman is able to open up sexually, what is needed for her to truly open up. And I'll refer back to this text, right? So I'm leaving you a little bit in suspense. Good. Okay, now the thing I wanted to talk about was how the text, right? A few of you were complaining, and it was very good discussion, that, well, she's just, when we talked about the infidelity, right? And she's there, my beloved is mine and I'm his, like till the end, she's just sitting there waiting for him. And a few of you were like, well, right? How long we gotta wait? Like, what is this? Isn't this enabling, right? The infidelity to just sit there and continue to love him no matter what, without ever, saying, what are you doing? Right? If you continue, then, right? So I want to talk a little bit why this text is so permissive in a way, right? In terms of how in this context, the woman is acting. So I have to bring up an interesting concept in the Hebrew tradition that will help you understand what is happening. In the Hebrew tradition, there is a saying that when you love someone, you need to have a balance of justice and loving kindness. The Hebrew, if you want to write it, is din, D-I-N, and chesed, H-E-S-E-D. You need to have the justice component and the grace. Chesed actually means love beyond what is deserved. So I will call it grace, right? So you need justice and you need grace, and you need a perfect balance in order to truly love someone. This can be anyone, partner, a child, a friend, You will see that you need this balance. And so the rabbis comment and they say, why? And so they say this: if you only have chesed, if you only have grace, you will get trampled, right? That person will take advantage of you like it's not permitted, right? They will just, if you're only grace, right? If you're only always saying, I forgive you, yes, I'm with you, I'm never gonna leave you, and they can do whatever, you're going to get trampled on and your love will be destroyed. If you only have justice, meaning the idea of, okay, if you do this, then I will do this, and this is the contract between us, and you have to keep it, and if you fail to keep it, I'm out, right? That's justice. Justice is the contract, implicit or explicit, right? You have expectations in the relationship. You should do this, and I will do this. That's the contract. The person misses a beat, boom, you're out. That's justice, right? Now, if you only have justice, what do you end up with? Yes.
Easily fighting?
Huh?
Easily fighting?
Fighting all the time, and especially, does the relationship, can it end if there's only justice? That's fine.
There's no peace, there's no balance within it, so it's going to end very quickly.
It's going to end very quickly, right?
Very, very
It's like, yo, I told you I didn't want you to be late. You're late. I'm out, right? So this is justice, right? We had an arrangement that you wouldn't be late. I explained to you, it's disrespectful when you're late to our appointments. You're late, so I'm out. We sometimes act like this, right? This is justice. Now, the Jewish tradition is saying you need both. If you only have justice, it will end very quickly. If you only have grace, it will die a slow death, right? You need a balance of the two. That's the key. You need to be able to balance the grace, but also have the boundaries, right? So you need to be with and against. Let me say that again. This is the key. You need to be both with and against your partner. I am with you. I'm going to be with you for the long haul. You have my faithfulness. You have my commitment. But here's what I need. And boundaries, certain boundaries. This is what I am expecting. And so you have to juggle the two. And in our culture, we don't know how to do that. We have two kinds of women and men, right? You have the pushovers. And you have the bitches, or male equivalent, right? What is the male equivalent of a bitch? Is there
A jerk.
a jerk? Okay, but it's not a jerk, right? Because a bitch, there's something good about it, right? She knows how to create her boundaries. She's not gonna let anything go. That's a nice bitch, right? Like in the good sense of the term. Is there a similar term for guys like that are like very strict and they're not gonna let anything pass and See, we have bitch and you have assertive. This is what I mean. There's a problem here. Okay, so I think you all get my point, right? That we have, right? We have two kinds of women or men, right? The pushover or the person who is just, there is no, immediately it's over when you don't do what they have told you to do, right? So it's a delicate balance, and the difficulty, the challenge of any relationship, whether it's a child or a partner or a sibling, right, is to learn to balance the two, to have the justice, but to also have the grace, to have the grace, but to also have the justice. And some of us, we are too much in the justice. Some of us, we are too much in the grace, and we have to learn to tip back, right? We have to learn to create that balance. So Song of Songs, pure grace. Why? Why is there this text in the Bible? And we see that. This woman has no boundaries. She's just faithful. She's there. Now, she's not, to be fair to her, she's also very assertive, right? It's interesting. She tells this guy what she wants all the time, right? Until the end, where she actually, I don't know if you caught this in the end, she proposes to him. Did you catch this? Where is that? She actually proposes to this guy. Anybody caught that? Where is that? Can someone find me? That's how assertive she is, right? She's actually telling him, I want to get married. Anybody caught where that is? Towards the very, very end. I'm trying to see where exactly. Help me find it, those who have an idea what I'm talking about. Right over here. Chapter 8, verse 6. Turn with me. You will see how assertive this woman is. So she's not a pushover. She's very graceful. She's very patient, but she's not a pushover. Here, listen to her here on chapter 8, verse 6. Bind me as a seal upon your heart, as a sign upon your arm. What is she saying when she says, bind me as a seal upon your heart? If not, commit to me forever. Right? That's what she's saying in this poetic, right? A seal it's an act of possession. When you seal a letter, it means it's yours, right? So she's saying, make me yours, right? Bind me to you, marry me, basically, right? And then she continues, for love is as fierce as death, its jealousy bitter as the grave, etc. So this woman, although she has a lot of patience and grace, very assertive, she's telling the guy everything that she needs from him, right? She's creating the balance to a certain degree. But the text, you're right, and some of you who are uncomfortable, you're sensing is still leaning towards grace. Why is that? Why is this particular text, when you look at the whole Bible, why is this text leaning so heavily towards grace? Anybody know? What's the rest of the Bible take on love and relationships? What does the law of Moses say about love and relationships?
Tough love.
Exactly. Justice. It's a covenant. Boom, you write it, you get together with the father, right? You don't get together, you get together with the father, and the father tells you, this is what I need from you in terms of money. This is how you're gonna take care of my daughter. We're gonna draw out a contract and you're gonna sign it. And if you don't keep it, this is what's gonna happen to you. Pure justice in the rest of the Hebrew Bible. It's a covenant. Everyone has to keep this, and if it doesn't work out, boom, it's over. So we have this text to balance out the rest of the Hebrew Bible, which is leaning towards justice. Are you following what I'm saying? Right? So this text, that's why some of you will be a little bit uncomfortable, because leaning towards justice, but you can still see that this woman is still very assertive, expressing her desires. She knows what she wants, and she's able to attract it to a certain degree, right? This is a very powerful woman. Don't be fooled by the patience that she shows to this man. She's an extremely powerful woman, and she's in a way, she's pulling the strings of the relationship. She's the one who is mapping the course of the relationship in this context, right? Now, of course, in other contexts, you can have the man doing that, right? There are other stories where the man is really pulling the strings and mapping out the course of the relationship. But in this particular text, she's very powerful, and she's the one who is really influencing her partner, right? And not the other way around. So that should give you, so does that answer a little bit, Epstein, your concerns last time?
I guess.
Okay. You're looking hard for me now.
That's my problem with she's waiting for him. It's that, we're taking this as an example, but I think that it lacks a lot of communication. You're right, she's very upfront. She's saying, well, I want a relationship. I want to be together. He doesn't want that.
Well, he's ambiguous, I think.
But even ambiguous, it's like, well, maybe, I don't know. I
Right.
feel like there's other ways to go about it.
There's still not the word no. This whole text seems to lean towards the yes.
It is.
Without approaching the no.
I'll give you that. It is really, because the rest of the Bible is so into the justice, this text was written to balance it. You see what I mean? So it's leaning towards the yes in a way that's very intriguing, right? It's not.
I mean, this would be a perfect balance to Job, in a way.
How so?
Job is all about the commitment.
Yeah, he's all about the law. She's all about the grace.
The law, the commitment.
Yeah.
The
following the rules.
Following the rules, right?
Yeah.
This is.
There's no rules.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
See, if you don't want rules, it's even harder, because she's now, love without rules is much more of a challenge, I think. That's why I tell everybody, stay within patriarchy if you can. Nice rules. Everything, mapped out. If you're gonna step out, this is a path that she's proposing. When there is no more law, no more restrictions, no one knows what's going on, no one is on the same page, this is one path you can take, is the path of grace, right? So you're right, it's not for everybody. I agree with you. There are certainly other paths, and we'll see Plato is much more prudent when we get to Plato. Okay, great. All right, let's get into today's text. I'm going to look at chapter 4. I think, let me see. Turn with me, actually, chapter 5. It's good you saw chapter 4, though. Okay, chapter 5, verse 2. Everybody turn with me. Where are your books? Let me see your books. Okay. It's page 83. Okay. Good. All right, so remember what I told you, right? Actually, I didn't say. This particular chapter is in the center of the book, and this is significant. This is the heart of the book. There's a reason for that. Anybody knows why the center of the book is important in Near Eastern literature? Something very key about the center of the book. What does it do? Yes. Yes, it's the climax, and it's everything the author wants to tell us is going to be condensed there, right? In Western literature, usually you know what's going to happen in the beginning, or you can go to the end and you have an idea. in Near Eastern literature is the center that will reveal to you the key to the whole book. So we are at the center, and of course we are expecting, like you were saying, my God, who are you? Itzkovitz, yes, as you were saying, right? We're expecting a climactic moment, a climax, maybe, you know, first kiss or maybe first night together. And what do we have instead? Someone summarize to me what happens? What kind of climax we end up with? If it is a climax, Ramos? You're nodding, so you know. No? Okay, yes, me what? A what? Exactly, we have a complete missed encounter, fiasco. Didn't work out. You know how you go on dates and nothing works out and you come home and you're like, why? Everything it's just all chaotic and clumsy and nothing really, you don't feel anything happened between the two of you. You feel like there was not good communication. You feel like you didn't come across. There was no connection. Here we are. You're not the only one. It makes you feel better to go on a ruined date, right? So this is a complete fiasco. The guy, by the way, notice, the guy finally makes a move. Finally, chapter 5. Takes him 5 chapters to make a move, right? This woman been running after him for 5 chapters. Finally, he makes a move. He goes to her house. He wants to be with her. Aggressively, by the way, because it says knocking. It's not. In the Hebrew, it's pounding. He's pounding on the door. There goes the consent, right? He's pounding on the door. He has to have her. And what does she do, this girl? That ruins everything. Does she open the door?
Ready to bed. I'm not
exactly.
Going out.
She's not opening the door joyfully. Finally, here you are. Well, you know, we want that to happen. She's in bed and she's like, oh man, you coming now? Right? Why you come now? I'm in bed. I took off all my clothes. It's a hassle. Why you gotta come now? And so in a way, she finally, right, she starts to go to the door, you know, reluctantly. And by the time she opens, where is he? He's there with flowers? Where is he? Gone. Right? Total mess up, right? On both parts, by the way. Both mess this up, right? She could have come a little faster into the door. He could have waited, right? But they both mess this up. So what can we learn from this passage? If it's in the center of the book, there's a reason. What is this passage telling us? What is the author trying to tell us about the essence of love in this passage? What does he say? Yes.
Patience is a virtue.
Okay, patience. Did you read my notes? I'm gonna go there. Very good. Thank you. Yes. Huh? In what sense? Tell me. How should they be selfless here?
I guess for both parts. I found the exact concept for it, but when you have both parties, they could make a decision that's either selfless or more for their priorities, and they both made a decision that's more for their priorities. The guy wanted to be safe, so he kind of blasted. The girl, she was kind of like prioritizing her thinking rather than getting action.
Very good.
If both parties took out their decision, they would definitely.
This is all excellent advice. I hope you guys are taking notes. We're getting great advice. Anybody else had there? Good. Excellent. Very good. Epstein and then.
Timing is everything. You have to learn how to read the situation.
Huh?
Timing is everything. You have to
Yes.
understand how to read the situation and read
good.
the other person.
Yes.
Understand what they're going for and when to show up, when not to show up.
So hard.
Communication is important.
Yes. Very good. Yes.
I think maybe it also speaks to like taking things for granted, because like how she was chasing him the whole time. So sometimes God said that for granted, oh, she's gonna be there for me when I'm ready. And then by the time he was there, it's like I'm not too interested no more. Like I'm tired. Like I'm over it.
Exactly.
And so it was like he waited too long.
Oh, okay.
And then he was still impatient. So it was like you said, like so.
Okay. Very good. Excellent. This is good too. And okay, tell me again.
I agree with her point. It's like literally, yeah.
Zero.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like she shouldn't be rushing to like go after him after she was after him the whole time. Like he could have waited more. You know?
He could have. Yes, very good. Nor?
I was going to add on to the selfless point that it's not just selfish as in leaving so soon, but it's also selfish to think, assuming he'd be in the middle, that he didn't even think to say, let me come at a reasonable time.
Let me text her
And-
first.
her and thinking that he has finally come, I should get out because this is the first time he's come to me.
Yes, very good. By the way, before I get into what I was going to say, just a quick word of advice to women. I'm just going to say this because I finally understood this very late. You know how you pursue the guy, and then when they finally make a move, you're so pissed that they didn't make a move sooner that you just reject them. You know this? No. Some of you do, right? You make so many moves, and he doesn't respond, and so now you're all pissed. So that when he makes a move, you have to create some balance for yourself. So you reject him just to, for vengeance for all the time he rejected you. And this is the best way to ruin the beginning of a relationship. Just don't pursue, wait till the guy comes, and then you can be happy, right? So this is just a little parenthesis that I'm catching here, a little tiny word of advice for some of us, clearly not all. Some of us who are, we do a little pursuing and we get rejected a couple times, and then when they come, we're like, I'm busy. Just to, process the resentment we have accumulated by all the rejections, right? Yeah.
And then not only that, like on top of that, she then put her little like anger aside and went to the door anyway. And then he still wasn't there, so it was like in my mind, I'm like, see, you should have just stayed in bed. Like
yes.
The one time he comes, he gonna like that's like you keep calling somebody and the one time they call you, they're going to answer immediately. No, don't answer.
Unless you weren't calling all the time, then when they call, it's like, oh, it's a pleasant surprise. You're not full of resentment, right? So that's just a little. So very good. Yes, Mayweather.
I feel like it kind of gives hookup vibes. It's like when you're interested in a guy who will text you after 12
It does have a hookup vibe. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
That doesn't really care to see this one.
Yes, it's actually a very sexual passage. If you read all the innuendos, it's very, very actually, it's implicit, like Hebrews are very discreet, but you can see a lot, right, if you have a dirty mind. So yes, very good. Not all of us do, but some of us do, so you can catch more, right? So yeah, absolutely, right? So, but I don't want to talk about that. This was just a little parentheses, just tiny bit of advice for some of us who are more forward, right? What I want to talk about is the difference in timing. And I want to talk about how to resolve this, right? Now, I'm going to talk about first, there's two ways to talk about this. Timing in general, people in general have different timings. I'm going to make a little, first I'm going to start with talking about perhaps different timing between man and woman, which is hard to do nowadays because everyone is so fluid, right? But I'm still going to go there. And then we can apply it in general. But in this particular text, it is speaking of a difference of timing between this woman and this man. So I'm going to make it particular, right? This woman and this man. And you can generalize if you want or not, right? Okay, so it's interesting because he's very fast to a certain degree, but he's also very slow. She's also very fast to a certain degree, but there's a part of her that's very slow too. So we have to figure out what it is. Look at the beginning, 5:2. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. What is this telling you about this woman? What part is awake? What part is asleep? What part is fast? What part is slow? What do you think? Yes?
Maybe her brain is asleep and her heart is awake.
It doesn't say her brain. It says, I am asleep, meaning? So her heart is awake. Her heart is
beating
there, right? But part of her is asleep. What part? Is that her?
Oh,
Yes, Rana, is that her? Y'all just, yes.
Soul.
Huh?
Soul.
Not the soul?
her body.
Yes, she's in bed. She's asleep. Okay, body is asleep, heart is awake. What is this telling you about the psychology of women when it comes to sexual encounter? Something interesting there, which is generally true, I think. Yes?
Is it like her heart wins the one that she goes like,
You're on the right track? Yes.
Probably wrong, but don't bother a woman when she's sleeping, I guess. No?
Yes, you are. I mean, yes, don't bother a woman when she's sleeping. Yes, that's definitely one lesson we can get. But I'm looking more at the psychology of women, right? I'm trying to go beyond the obvious. Yes, of course. Don't wake up a woman when she's sleeping, by all means. But there's something else going on. Yes.
I think it's like that thing where it's like she's tired, right? Like she's over it, her body's tired. It's like that infatuation, like it keeps like it wakes you up a little bit, and it's just like even if you know, like I should just be going to sleep right now. It's just like he's outside, like you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's just like this thing of like maybe like sometimes your brain or like will go against what's physically best for you. Like that part might have been like stay in bed, you already in bed relaxed. But
Okay,
like
so you're like him. You are still on the literal, right? She's tired. What I'm talking more metaphorical. What is the author trying to tell us about the psychology, general psychology of it? Yes. You're close. The heart seems to be very alive, and the body is sleeping. Yes.
Yeah, we just say that you find that like women kind of follow their heart rather than their body. Like that's what they're thinking about more.
Okay, good. Yes, you're on the right track. See?
Your heart yearns for something beyond bodily satisfaction.
Okay, you're the closest yet. Y'all are getting warm. Yes, Nor?
I think
what it's trying to imply, that women are fast with feelings, but slow with sex.
Finally, thank you. Thank you, Nora. Right, this is where I'm going. Women generally, right? Especially inexperienced women, you have to know this, right? Maybe experienced women are a little faster sexually, but if you're dating an inexperienced woman, right? You want to know this about her. She's gonna be fast emotionally. She's gonna be there very quickly, right? Usually within a couple dates, we know, right? And then, but physically, it takes her longer to open up. Now, for the men, this is useful information. Let me tell you why. Suppose you're dating this inexperienced woman, right? And you can sense she's into you, and it's like the third, fourth date, and now you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a move. You make a move, and what happens? Boom, she slams the door in your face. And now you're thinking, wait a second, what just happened, right? I thought she was ready. I thought she loved me. What happened, ladies? If you can remember your days of inexperience. It doesn't mean that she doesn't love this guy. Why did she push him away when he made a move, like a more sexual move? Why did she push him away?
Because I have like well inexperienced that I do like guys not wanting to date guys. Like if I see someone he's not taking serious.
Okay, very good, right? It's harder for us to open up as quickly, right? Sexually, we need more time. And it helps for the men to know that if they're rejecting you, doesn't necessarily mean they're not interested. Write this down. This is useful information. If they're rejecting you, doesn't necessarily mean they're not interested, especially if you got some signs that she was interested, especially if she went with you on a few dates, you can sense that she's open to you. And now you're confused because you make a move and she rejects you. It is simply that the woman, especially when she's inexperienced, needs more time to open up physically, and it helps to know that, right? However, emotionally, she's very quickly there. Now, it's interesting. The man is the opposite, I have found in my experience. That the man is the opposite. What does that mean? What do I mean when I say the man is the opposite? Yes, help me.
Listen, just because he is interested doesn't mean he is. No.
Not quite. You're saying it, but I want you to go deeper. Yes, oh, sorry. Okay, very good, right? Is that what you want? Okay, absolutely. The man is fast physically, but what we often don't know as women is that on the emotional side, it's harder for him to open up, especially if he has been hurt before. If we've been hurt before, I don't know, we have this system where we kind of like, we're able to recycle our hearts real fast as women. Not so much our bodies, but our hearts. The man, especially if he's been hurt before, is going to be much slower to open up emotionally. And we women need to understand that, and not only understand that, but respect that, right? Just like we expect the man to respect us, right? To respect our sexual rhythm and to be like, I want us to wait a little bit, and we expect the man to respect that, I need time. But often we don't respect that the man might need time emotionally. You know, we'll talk to our friends, it's been 6 months, we're dating, and he still hasn't made, committed move. And the friends are like, he's a loser, tough him, he's immature. I mean, there's a list of words we have for those kind of guys, right? Immature, player, not taking you serious. And we have a whole repertoire, right? Just to explain this guy, which is not, and we have a way of disrespecting that part of the man, just like we want them to respect us physically. We ought also to respect the man emotionally and accept that there is also more time needed for them than us to open up emotionally. And it doesn't mean they're immature. It doesn't mean they're playing you. It doesn't mean they're not interested, right? They might be deeply interested, but they are not there yet. And so just like they need to wait for us, sometimes for sex, we sometimes have to wait for them for commitment. And this is something, right, that we need to understand about female and male psychology if we're going to get anywhere, right, in our relationships. Melissa, you have a question?
I mean, just a comment.
Yeah.
I found that, when men open up with show emotions, like they're weak or something. I feel like, and that's not even just like in a romantic context. It's almost just a cultural, societal context. It's like, you gotta be stoic and show no emotion.
Yeah.
Or they mistake weak for weakness.
No, that's very good, right? The ability to allow yourself to fall in love, right, is something that our society, right, the machisto, how you say it in English? Machisto?
Machismo.
But as an adjective, the society. Yeah, Yeah, I know. I can't say it in English. So the machistic, I don't know, the culture of machismo, right, has made it so that it's very hard for a man to actually express feelings, right? By the way, I would really suggest to you and whoever else is struggling with this, please read bell hooks on masculinity. What's that word? What's the title of that book? Who has read bell hooks? Anybody? What's the title of that book? It's another one. The will to change. The will to change. This is such an amazing book. If you're a man, right, I know she's a woman and she's writing about men. I know there's a problem there, but but it is really a read, right? If you're a man and you're dealing and you're wanting to get out of the culture of machismo and you want to kind of connect to be a different type of man, she's the one to read. Bell Hooks, Bellhooks. She's the one to read, and The Will to Change is the best one because it really talks about how patriarchy has not only oppressed women, but it has oppressed men. Men themselves are stuck in this role that they have to follow, and they're not able to connect to their genuine self, right? So I agree with you, and I would prescribe to what you're saying, that book, right? Okay, bunch of you guys are, yes, C and then North.
I mean, there is a reason why suicide rates in men far exceeds what it is in women. And it really is because, when somebody is in a very dark spot, they can't reach out to anybody. They can't express their feelings, and in some ways it turns against themselves. And what could have been avoided became unavoidable in the end. And if anybody needs some kind of support, you have to at least have somebody that you can reach out to that you can express it, even if that person doesn't understand.
Right, at least maybe another man, but even between men, I remember, I'll tell you an experience. So I have an Airbnb, and there were two young guys staying there at one point, two kind of late teenagers, like 19, 20. And, they were nice, and at one point I talked to the younger one. He was maybe 17 or something. And we were talking, and he kind of opened up about his first experience with a woman, right? He told me this is how it felt, and afterwards I was so confused. It was so much emotion, I didn't know what to do with it. And we talked for about an hour, very, very openly. And then all of a sudden, his friend came in the kitchen, and he just shut down. It was just he could not continue talking openly about it because his friend had come in, and he couldn't look weak, like you were saying. So he didn't continue, he didn't say a word, the conversation was over, right? So just to go to your point that even male friends, right, it's hard to talk to because you have to play that role, right, even between males. And again, bell hooks is really, for me, if I was a guy, it's very freeing book, right? I would really recommend it. Yes, sorry, and then, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You were first, go ahead.
All I was going to say was that, adding on to what was said, I think that talking about the psychology of males and females is kind of complicated when you start to take into consideration gender roles, the same way that men being more hesitant with feelings can be attributed to masculinity expectations. It is the same way that women being slower with sex could be attributed to, how women have been shunned for sex for ages.
That's true.
It's saying that women are more hesitant with sex, but I don't think that's just a woman's nature. When,
I like that.
A woman, sleeps with a lot of people, she's a slut. When a man sleeps with a lot of people, they're a stud. That kind of social standard has been in place for a very long time. Maybe it's changing now, but still. So I think both of these things about women and men could be attributed to the situations they've been put in for centuries.
That's a really good explanation, right? Maybe it's not essential. Maybe it's just because we were taught a certain way. We were taught to hold back our feelings as men. We were taught to hold back our bodies as women. And now, right? So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. There's both ways of seeing it, but I love your point. Absolutely. And we can see beyond, right? We can just look at two people who have a different rhythm. In general, this is, learning to adapt to the rhythm of the other. Some people are faster physically, some people are slower emotionally, and learning to adapt, right? And realizing that the key is what you said, patience, right? The key to really making love work, and this is what the passage is saying, is the ability to respect the other person's rhythm, whether it's gendered or whether it's just different people. Because what about same-sex relationships, right? You don't have this same dynamic, but you still have different rhythms, right? So beyond here, the binary interpretation I have given to the text, you have, in general, people have different rhythms. People have different pasts, histories that make them faster, slower in different ways, right? So same idea, right? If this is the same idea of learning to respect your partner's rhythm and not immediately, right? Giving them the benefit of the doubt and not immediately saying, oh, they're immature or they're like slut or bitch or whatever, right? Putting them in a category. There's a reason why they're fast or slow, right? Learn the history and be respectful. And if they had been respectful of each other's rhythms, he would have waited. She would have, maybe made a little faster move, right? They would have been able to have an amazing night, right? Together, maybe first night, right? So this is, I think, one of the main lessons is exactly what you said, right? The notion of love is patience. Love is waiting. Love is the ability to wait for your beloved, whether it's emotionally for commitment or physically for sex. The ability to wait is what will characterize your love as different from mere lust or selfish gratification. Like you were saying, I forgot your name. Yes, but you said very well, both were being selfish. They were not attuned to the other person's needs, right? Very good. I saw a hand. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was actually just gonna, I was commenting on what both of you said, because I do agree. I think that like the socialization, like you said, like living in the patriarchy and stuff, even when it comes to like how we were talking about like suicide rates and things, I think even part of that has to do with like women being taught like we have to be the nurturers and things. So it's like if you let's say like in a family, right? Like where it's like, well, you're the mom. Like people will say like suicide people like, you're gonna do yourself, you have people to take care of. Like what is everybody else in the family gonna do if you're not here? And things like that. And so it's like the responsibility aspect, like it's just like crazy to see how much like social norms and stuff like that play into like even think this shit you wouldn't think would be gendered, but it's like it's the small things add up to make it larger stuff.
Excellent. Yes. So responding to you, right? Absolutely. Good point. Yes.
At the same time, while everybody has valid points about how the stereotypes have become this, they are driven by some sense of truth that yes, men are like this and women are like this, and while everybody has a different pace, I think that it's because this process acts as a filter, right? If you're unwilling to sync up with the other person's patience or the other person's need to go faster or slower or manage their the timing well, it's because of these things that they filter out the bad relationships, and the ones who are willing to put up with something actually stick around.
Yes, very good.
So even though these stereotypes may seem bad, they do have a purpose in a sense. Even in same-sex marriages, there's a sliding scale, right? So there's always going to be the person who's more aggressive, the person who's less aggressive, the person who's more open up with their feelings, the person who's less open up with their feelings. And it's the ability to sync up with the other persons that will create a lasting relationship.
Very good. Absolutely, right? Here we have the general notion of slow, fast, slow to commit, fast to commit, slow to have sex, fast to have, and we will have people like this. Everybody will fit in one of those, right? Very good. And you'll have to deal with that at some point. Excellent. Okay, let's go to the next part. I want to go to the next part, which is the conclusion, which I have entitled Grace in the Song of Songs, right? So I want to introduce this like this. So first I'm going to dedicate this section to a few of you. So if you happen to be clumsy in love, meaning you constantly make the worst mistakes, you don't do what you know what you should do, right? You know what to do and you end up doing the opposite. Anybody like that? Anybody can? Few of you, right? You know what you should do and you end up doing the opposite, and then you're like, damn, what was the song by Britney Spears? The one where she's like, oops.
Oops, I did it again.
Oops, I did it again, right? Britney Spears. If you're like that, like you know what you should do and you end up doing something else, if you're constantly messing up all your relationships all day long and you're always coming, leaving a trace of, trail of blood behind you, this part of the class is dedicated to you. Because guess what? These two are a mess, right? And this is what's so interesting about this text. This is what I love about this text, is that these two kids make every single mistake in the book, and yet they succeed. Make sure you write this down. This is very interesting. They make every single mistake in the book, and we're going to go over those mistakes in a second. And yet they succeed. You can see this at the end, right? When he leaves the lilies behind, and when she tells him to commit, and she says to him, right, our love is as strong as death, right? This is chapter 8, verse 2 that I mentioned before. So this relationship clearly gets somewhere, very solid, very strong. Their love becomes very strong. And yet they make every single mistake in the book. And I think this is really the gospel, like I said before, this is the gospel of the black sheep. This is the gospel of the people who mess things up over and over again, right? Because it's telling you, you can be a huge mess up. You can mess things up and make all the mistakes, and yet you can still have the love of your life. You don't have to be a perfect lover and follow all the rules and do everything perfect to find love. You can also be imperfect and find love. That is the dominant message here that I'm getting, but we're gonna go deeper. Let me say it again so you can write it down. You can also be an imperfect lover and find true love, right? You don't have to be the perfect lover to find true love and always doing everything right and following all the rules, and now you deserve, true love. Love is grace. You never deserve it. Right? Even if you do everything right, it's still not deserved, right? Love is never something you deserve. If love comes in your life, it's always a gift. And especially if you're the type to mess up over and over again and love comes in your life, and in this case, it happens in this way, in the end, they still manage to find true love. So I want to look at how, right? Again, I'm intrigued, right? First, let's look at their mistakes. Both make fatal mistakes. What are some of the fatal mistakes that the man does? Things that are like, it's over, like it should be over. Yes.
Talks to a lot of women.
He talks to a lot of women. Yes. Epstein, same thing?
Non-committal.
Non-committal. My God, very mature, non-committal, doesn't know what he wants, right? He talks to other women, maybe even, sleeps with them. We don't know. It's a kind of still very discreet, right? This guy, if I'm dating this guy, it's over like within 3 weeks, like justice, right? So he makes a number of fatal mistakes. Now, she also does a few mistakes that are fatal in the guys. When you know a little bit male psychology, you can see where she's really making huge mistakes. Tell me some of the mistakes she makes. Yeah.
She's kind of being controlling, I guess.
Yeah, she's controlling. I mean, if you start doing that with a guy, it's the end. I'll just let you know. If you're a controlling woman and you start to do this, this is the beginning of the end. You have written a death sentence for your relationship. What else does she do? She's what? Insensitive?
Obsessive.
Oh yeah, she's obsessive, she's clingy, she's needy. I mean, she's a nightmare. Anything else? Yes.
I'm not sure if this counts, but she's willing to give up everything that she has.
Yeah, she's kind of, losing herself in this guy, right? Yes. Huh? Absolutely, yes. Self-sabotage. I mean, both are really messed up. I don't know if you realize how messed up this relationship is. I know it's in the Bible and everything, but it's really messed up, right? And yet in the end, they get to this true love, right? This is why I find these texts from wisdom literature so beautiful, because they're the texts that are telling you, even if you transgress, even if you mess up, you can still get that, right? That is not what we are taught. We are usually taught you have to do the right thing and then you will get the right thing. This text is saying, even if you mess up and you transgress, you can still inherit true love, right? But let's see what they do. There's two things they both do. Even though they're such messes, they do these two things, which in my view has really enabled them to get to that point. Anybody see what they're doing right? There's two things they're doing right. Both of them. Yes, Epstein.
They have passion.
Yes, number one, they stick it out. You can say that about them. They really stick it out, right? They're really, not one of them leaves and says, it's over, I'm sick of you, right? They stick it out. This is a very simple step. This is a step most of us don't even get to, right? They just stick it out. Now, that's not enough, because we all know those couples who stuck it out and we never want to be them. Right? They stuck it out and it's hell to live with them, right? So it's not enough to just stick it out. What else is needed and what else are they doing?
Never mind.
Yes.
Maybe that they're hopeful.
Almost.
Oh,
She is, but not so much he. She has it, you're right, but not yet.
She's willing to wait for him.
Both. Look at what both are doing. We know that already. Yes, this helps, of course. But both are doing this, which is enabling the relationship to last in a way that's not hell on earth. Right? Yeah. What?
Compromise.
Are you so close? So close. Yeah, almost there. Pretty much there. Let me hear a couple more people. Anybody else? Yes.
I was also willing to change.
You read my mind. How do you do that? Because you're sitting there. See the benefits of sitting near the professor. You can get the vibes. Very good. That's what I was going to say, which is kind of what you were saying, right? The willingness to change. It's not enough to stick it out. You also have to have the humility to change. If you're going to be with someone for a long time, Yeah. Number one thing you got to do is stick it out. Number two, if you don't want this to be hell on earth, you have to show the willingness to change. And they do this. Both of them shift throughout the relationship. How does the woman change? Who can tell me how she changed? This is a review. Yeah.
She backed off.
Okay. She loses the possessivity. She backs off. Remember the last verse that we read where she sends him off like a gazelle to the mountains. She releases him. She changes, right? From this immature, clingy, obsessive, needy woman to a much more confident, self-contained, right? At home with herself. She's able to release him, right? This is a sign of maturity. When you're able to love while releasing, that you've reached maturity, right? How about the guy? How does he change? He changes too. Yes. Exactly. He moves from being very scattered, very diffused, right? His love is very diffused. He's able to bring himself into focus, right? So they change. They have the humility to change. And this is what we don't understand about love. We don't understand that love is a crucible. What's a crucible? Everybody tell me it's from the alchemy. What is a crucible? Yes, it's also in chemistry. Whoever studied the chemistry, you have a crucible where you do what to the crucible? What are you doing in this stuff? What's the technical term for this? Is ancient word crucible. What's the word for chemistry when you have the thing where you put your things in it? What's that called? The what?
It's called the crucible.
It's called the crucible? Oh, they kept the old word. Okay. Crucible in chemistry. What happens in the crucible?
You heat things up. You put things in and heat them up to very hot temperature.
And what happens to the things inside?
They melt together.
They change, right? So let me tell you, the origins of chemistry, right, were alchemy. This was medieval times, before pre-chemistry, before chemistry happened. We had a science called alchemy. If you read the book by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist, this is the same word. Alchemy was this. The alchemists believed that we can find a way to transform a very heavy substance like lead into gold. And they would experiment, right? They would put the substance and add different things and put some fire and see if they can refine it to the point of getting gold. So the alchemists actually believe that it's possible to take a very heavy substance like lead and through a series of chemical reactions with, of course, fire, you can find at the end pure gold. And so what we're learning is that love is a form of alchemy. There's an alchemy of love. To be stuck in a crucible, right? And willing to go through different chemical reactions, right? Allowing the fire of suffering, right? And trials and challenges to move you from chemical reaction to chemical reaction, you can become pure gold. If there's anything to get out of love, even if you don't get the beloved, you can still get the gold. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Right? You can still allow the relationship. I think you mentioned that a little bit, that it's worth being in the relationship, even if the person leaves us at the end, because being in a relationship, when we really give all of ourselves to the relationship, we are allowing ourselves to be transformed into gold. We're allowing the trials and challenges to refine our love, right? And so love, really, that is the purpose of love, is to refine us into gold. We think love is about finding a nice home and comfortable people there watching TV together. No, that's your mom. That's your mom supposed to cook for you and, put you in front of the TV with a nice, dish. This is not the point of the lover. The lover's role is not to comfort you and cuddle you. It's to challenge you and turn you into gold. That's why they're so difficult to live with sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Because that's their point. They're there for that, to challenge you and refine you. And to be able to stick with it is really allowing that transformation to take place. People who don't stick with relationships never turn into gold. There, I said it. Right? You can't, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with leaving, staying, doing what you want. But if you want to become gold, you have to stay in the crucible. Imagine that the pebble leaves the crucible, it's too hot in here, I'm out, right? Jumps out, right? To change, you have to go through the chemical reactions, go through the challenges, go through the different transformations, no matter how painful they are. And so the purpose of love is to transform us into gold. That is it's not to reproduce, it's not to find a nice person, it's not to be comfortable, it's not to have a nice house, it's not to look good in the eyes of your friends, right? It's to become gold. And the only way to become gold, two things. You have to stay in the crucible. And number two, you have to go through the chemical reactions, right? That's what we are learning here, which is so important. Epstein.
To continue the metaphor, but if you go through the wrong chemical reactions in the wrong circumstances, you just end up burnt, charred, and useless.
If there's too much fire, this is a good point. If there's too much suffering, right? It's true. You can die, right? You can become charred. Or if there's not enough heat, you don't change, right? So it's true that at sometimes, I agree with you, it is necessary to survive to step away from the relationship. And I think I told you, even God divorced Israel, right? You know this, right? Did I tell you this? Even God divorced. God divorced, right? I mean, you didn't see, if you know the Bible, right, a little bit, you see that God and the people of Israel are kind of like lovers, right? And at one point, God is like, I'm done with you. You're going to Babylon. Kick them out. Kick them out of the house, right? Because it was getting charred, right? So even God understands that sometimes space and distance and separation is needed to save the relationship. So yes, if the fire gets too hot, yes, sometimes you have to take a step back, be like, whoa, 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 it's too hot in here. I'm dying, right? But you can still take a step back and give the relationship a chance. You can do that, right? You don't have to. Sometimes it's really hopeless, right? Although in this class, I'm gonna root for hope throughout the class. That's my purpose, right? Everybody's already so hopeless. So in this class, we're gonna be rooting for hope. But yeah, absolutely. You're right. It can turn to chart, and in these moments, it's necessary sometimes to take a step back, right? Yes.
But I think I go back to what you said earlier with like the grace and justice. It's like, yeah, like sticking through, but not if you're getting burned always then.
Yeah,
or at least like implement that justice before it gets to the point where
yeah, absolutely. The justice, by the way, is not just for you, it's for them. You're teaching them how to love, right? You're teaching them not to be a jerk or a narcissist or whatever you want to call them, right? This is not just about protecting ourselves. It's for the sake of you, for the sake of the relationship, that sometimes I have to set boundaries. I tend to look at it like that. Like, I'm not doing this to protect myself from you. I'm doing this so you can love me in a way that I can love you, right? This is for the sake of the relationship. So yes, again, the balance between justice and grace is so important. And we are done. One more minute. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just reminded of you're talking about boundaries that I saw this thing that was like boundaries aren't there to keep us like hard. They're there so we can resolve.
Ooh, that's so nice. Oh my God, are you guys writing this? You guys are geniuses. This class is so good. You guys are so good. We should have like a talk show, you know? We should really, we would be awesome. Yes, absolutely. Boundaries are not there to separate. I'll just paraphrase, right? Boundaries are not there to put walls between us, but to create the possibility of a deeper relationship, right? If you don't have boundaries, your relationship can never be truly intimate. It's going to be a mess, right? Very good, very nice. Any closing words? We good? All right, good, excellent, so nice. It was such a pleasure talking to you. So we're gonna start a new author, which means that you have to listen to an online lecture on the playlist, right, to introduce Plato. You have to do an audio question, please try to do better. And you do the reading and the reading assignment for next week.
That's